Hello everybody, welcome back to Dirty Boots Bushcraft. In today's video, in the spirit of summer, we're going to be looking at blackberries. We're going to be talking about how to spot them, how to make sure they are blackberries and not something else, when to pick them, how to pick them, kind of just some general information about them, and then things you can do with them. Okay, so let's first talk about how to recognize a blackberry bush. So if you don't spot the fruit, the first thing you're probably going to recognize is all of the thorns. So they grow on kind of tangled shrubs, which we call brambles in the UK, which as you can see, lots of thorns everywhere. So the kind of these canes, you'd call them, are got to be very careful because they're very thorny. So they're covered in these very sharp downwards curving thorns. Yeah, got to be very careful of them. And as you can see, the leaves are typically split into 3 to 5 leaves. They're oval in shape and they've got these serrated or toothed, you could say, edges to them. That's one of the best ways to identify them, is they've got these serrated edges, and the leaves are in these kind of groups of 4 here, there's 5 there. So another good way to identify them is if you look at the canes. So I'm going to try and show you without getting poked by the thorns. Yeah, so another way you can identify these is with these canes. So if you take a closer look at them, I'll just cut this one off with my knife. You can see these downwards curving thorns, which is very typical of blackberry bushes and brambles. So these thorns kind of go under the leaves even. See, that one caught my finger. So there's lots of brown, lots of thorns, and they're all downwards turning. And then you can see what we talked about with the leaves. But if you actually look at the cane, they've got these ridges, and they're actually I don't know if you can see, but there are these ridges on the actual canes themselves. They're kind of, I don't know if you can see, but they're often 5-sided. They're pentagonal, unlike most of the other plants that have round stems. These have quite angular, flat grooves to them. So another thing about the blackberry bush canes is the older, more mature ones have quite a maroon red colour, and then the younger ones will have a slightly greener, or sometimes like fully green if they're very young, colour to them, and their thorns are kind of slightly softer and even kind of not sharp at all. So this is quite a young blackberry bush cane. As you can see, it's very green, still got that pentagonal shape, and the thorns are they're still sharp and I wouldn't want to grab it, but they're quite flimsy. A more mature one is that, you can see it's that nice maroon colour, almost like a red. So if you're looking for the blackberry bushes early in the season, they will have some clusters of flowers on them. So they're either pure white colour or sometimes pale pink. They'll have exactly 5 petals on them, and then there's like a fuzzy dense bit of stamens in the center of it. And yeah, early in the season they might look exactly like miniature wild roses, because blackberries are related to the rose family. So the final way to tell if it's a blackberry bush or not is the fruit itself. So most people should know what a blackberry looks like, but sometimes they can look like a different berry. So the fruit's a cluster of tiny, juicy, single-seeded orbs. So when you do pick them, it should pull away cleanly if it's ripe from the branch with like a solid, fleshy core left intact inside the berry. If you do pick it and it pops off like a hollow cup, you haven't probably found a blackberry. You have found something like a wild raspberry or a black raspberry. Good news about blackberries, if you're looking for them, there aren't really any toxic lookalikes for the blackberry in the UK. Anything that looks remotely like a blackberry or a raspberry growing in a thorny arching cane in a British wood is usually safe to eat. Now, you still have to be careful because sometimes things can still be hard to recognise and you could end up picking the wrong berry. So, as with anything, it is vital to be 100% sure of anything you plan to eat. So that's why it's really important to look for these signs and just kind of be expert in what you're doing. So in terms of when blackberries are ripe, so in the Essex area where we are, wild blackberries are usually ripe from late July through to September. And then the picking season normally is in August, which we're in now. However, because of some heat waves that we're having at the moment, some blackberry bushes are kind of panic ripening earlier than normal. So there are sometimes this year blackberries could be ready in late June, but right now is kind of the perfect time for most blackberry bushes. One more thing about picking the berries is it is best to pick them when it's slightly cooler, so in the early morning or in the evening. It's kind of late afternoon now, so it's not the worst time of day, which would probably be like midday would probably be the worst, but it can preserve their flavour slightly more, and mainly it prevents them from getting mushy. And if you're up early enough, it could mean that you get them before the birds do. Okay, so now we're going to go around and pick some blackberries and see how many we can get, and then after that we'll look at some things you can do with them. So over here, if you give these ones a little twist, they come off very well. They're very small and sometimes they won't look kind of like perfect blackberries. As you can see there, look, it's a nice whole one. So yeah, as you can see, these green berries are very unripe. These red ones that have the slight bit of beige and green still are also unripe. They will not taste very good. What we're looking for are ones like these, which are kind of quite plump, not too squishy, nice black colour all the way around, even colour's the other important thing, and these really dry ones are all black, but they wouldn't taste very good because most of the juice is kind of dried up. It's a good idea not to pick all of them because then there's some left for the wildlife and enough left so it can kind of regrow. I thought I'd make a cold drink as it's so hot in another heat wave in the UK, and because it's summertime. So let me show you my Blackberry haul. So this is quite a big container, as you can see. This one's slightly smaller, this is quite a large one. And I probably spent 20 minutes picking blackberries, and I didn't kind of go for I didn't have any tools or anything to bring down branches. If I'd been more well prepared and I'd had kind of maybe something like a litter picker or a stick to kind of drag a branch down and grab some of the blackberries, then I might have done better, because you do tend to find that some of the best berries are at the top of the brambles, where there's the most sunlight. But it's a pretty good haul for about 20 minutes of picking. Yeah, you could probably make a decent amount of jam with that as well. Like I said, it's quite heavy. It's quite a lot of blackberries here, and you got the odd one with the slight bit of red in there, but as you can see, most of these are just a nice black. But yeah, so what we're going to do is we're just going to take a few blackberries. I want to leave some left for just to eat by themselves. They're lovely by themselves. Maybe just under half. Put them in a pot, and then we can just mash these up, and they're gonna have a lot of nice juice in them. It's good to bring a water bottle as well if you come blackberry picking, like maybe 2 water bottles, just because this juice gets absolutely everywhere. No matter what you do, it's going to go on your clothes, and it stains. That's one of the uses of blackberries as well. It can stain stuff, and it's hard to get out. Yeah, I'm just gonna smush these up a bit. Yeah, as you can see, this is turning into like quite a nice blackberry paste. Lots of juices. I did give these a quick rinse as well. Yeah, so what we're going to do, as you see, I've just got some ice cold water there. Most of the ice is melted, but I'm just going to pour all of that into there. It's turning a nice red colour. I want to get as much of the juices as I can. This is really nice if you found some wild mint leaves as well. It makes it even more refreshing, even more nice of a drink, but I couldn't find any. But I have got some honey. Okay, so I've added some honey into there, and all I'm going to do now is just stir this up. Might not look the most appealing in the world, and you can strain it, I suppose, but I think that kind of defeats the point. So yeah, you can't see very well because this is a dark container, but yeah, you can see the red colour. Let's give it a try. That's really nice. The honey is not necessary, but it definitely does make it slightly nicer, because you are going to get the odd berry that's not completely ripe, and there's no real way to tell. Yeah, this is really, really good, really refreshing drink. So yeah, these will last probably 48 hours. You can obviously freeze them on like a baking tray if you want to store them for longer, but I would say probably 48 hours before they start to go bad. So important to remember, these are quite delicate. They're quite a delicate fruit, so when you are going to wash them, you probably want to submerge them and not put them under a really fast tap, just because otherwise it could damage the fruit and then ruin all of the blackberries. It's also good not to wash them instantly, because it could mean that they start to grow mold. It's good to kind of keep them dry in the fridge. If you're going to try and store them, it's good to keep them dry in the fridge, and then wash them when you're about to eat them. In terms of like the container you want to use for collecting them, something like this works quite well. I wouldn't probably pile it all the way to the top and put the lid on, because that could just crush all of them. You don't want to use like a deep bucket or anything, because that would just mean they all get ruined. And of course also you want to wear long sleeves and ideally trousers or something that covers your legs. But yeah, I hope you guys found that video useful about blackberries. We'll probably come back to blackberries another time, look at some different uses, how you can use it for dye and different recipes, because they're such a great, easily accessible food source to scavenge. But yeah, I hope you found it useful, and thank you for watching, and thank you for all the support. So yeah, if you enjoyed today's video, give us a like and subscribe, that would mean a lot. And yeah, see you in the next one.